That's the way we roll, dog.
On this episode, we feature founders of Dockside Media. They explore paranormal topics with their films. Their documentaries are well put together and tell a story that will leave you satisfied, but I think wanting more on the subject matter. What their episodes did for me was just cause me to think and maybe ask even more questions and just to think deeply, which is what I loved about their episodes. They were two very well put together documentaries, like I had mentioned. The Ghosts of Gettysburg and Conscious Contact Full Disclosure were the two that I recently watched. The films, I'd like to basically just welcome, Tyler Tansu. I hope I pronounced that right. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Chris Rupert. How you guys doing?
Good. You got my name right. Transu.
Gotcha.
Which I pronounce wrong too, because it's actually, I think, Transu. Is that how it's said, Tyler?
Yeah.
I don't know. We've said it enough times that at this point, I don't even know
it's
what
a
my
Berenstein
last name is.
Bears kind of thing.
Sounds like Rowan or something. Like or Taha.
That's awesome.
But yeah, let me see off the cuff. Tyler Transu.
Most people say that. Christopher Rupert is what I usually get, and you did Rupert, so you got it, man.
Gotcha, man. Yeah. I'm not. Like I said, I was telling you guys off air, I'm not claiming to be a film expert, but, as someone who's watched hundreds of documentaries, especially when it comes to like paranormal stuff, just to try to learn and understand, what the hell's going on, even like way before I started my show. It was just something that fascinated me. And, what I got from you guys is like, I didn't feel left, like a lot of documentaries, I'll feel like there's questions that weren't answered, or I feel like there's just something missing, or maybe even oftentimes like they'll get off track. But I felt like it wasn't like that with your stories that, you guys did. And I guess maybe where we could get started is, what's your involvement, Tyler? And then Chris, maybe you can tell us like, kind of how are you involved? What are your tasks? What are your duties? What's your role in all this?
For sure. Well, Dylan, yeah. First and foremost, man, thank you so much for having us on. To the listeners, again, it's Tyler Transu and Chris Rupert with Dockside Media. We've got Conscious Contact Full Disclosure coming out on April 19th on Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, Microsoft Movies, and Vimeo. And then on April 26th, the following Tuesday, we got The Ghost of Gettysburg, which is on Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, and Microsoft Movies. And dude, as far as how we got to this point in time, man, destiny, fate, like dog, if Chris and I, well, in the beginning of August, Chris came to me. We've known each other for years, have done some filmmaking projects together, like short films, commercials, some music videos, different things like that. And we've been doing this for the past 5-6 years. Teaching ourselves. And in August of 2021 here, Chris was like, hey, dude, do you want to start maybe making some documentaries? And I was like, yep, absolutely. And we were going to do one about a local legend called the Seven Gates of Hell, where I'm located near Lancaster, Pennsylvania. That's where Chris grew up as well. And now he's out by Philly. But so we were going to do the Seven Gates of Hell about a local legend in Hellam Township near York, Pennsylvania, about these 7 gates that appear at night on a person's property. If you walk through all 7 gates, after the 7th one, you're instantly transported to hell. We're like, oh, dude, that's a sick local urban legend. Let's research that, interview these people. And to make a long story short, just as I start contacting those people and trying to get interviews scheduled, find out who owns the property, blah, blah, that investigative work, I see Anjali. Her story pops up on Reddit, and she's the Department of Defense intelligence officer that appears in the film Conscious Contact Full Disclosure. I went down, I saw on Reddit that she was doing a public press conference in front of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. to disclose and talk about contact that she's made with extraterrestrials in a mountain base in the Mojave Desert. And I'm just like, yo, Chris, what do you think about pivoting to like me going down and filming that. And then we'll see what comes of it. Well, I know people are going to be interested in it. It takes a lot of courage for anybody to go up in a public, a public atmosphere like that and say the things that she's saying. And so Chris is like, yeah, dude, go for it. So yeah, drove my butt down there with 3 cameras and caught and filmed that. And then Conscious Contact, full disclosure, more or less materialized from there. I happened to stumble upon a common thread with Sue Walker on Twitter. She's talking under the @SandiaWisdom handle. And so I noticed that she was in telepathic contact with extraterrestrials in a mountain base in the Sandia Mountains in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So like, we just noticed these things and just said, you know what, dude, let's ask these people if they wouldn't mind sitting down for an interview. And I'll be damned if these people didn't say yes. And
the
she
lady
led us to Clifford Mahooty and
the lady in DC came across real credible. Is all I just wanted to add that. I felt like she was just completely credible and at least came across that way. And then can you maybe touch on the other guy that was in the native guy? I mean, because like what he brought, I thought was just, it was awesome, man. And like, I've heard so many just stories, about, I don't want to, share too much about the documentary, but like just the star people, the people from the stars and that culture and like ancient cultures and how they talk about those kinds of things. And when he came on and like some of the stuff he talked about was it was so fascinating.
Dude, number one, it's insane. So for your fans out there, if they want to Google, his name is Clifford Mahooty. Okay, he's a Zuni Pueblo elder, and God rest his soul, he passed away 2 months ago here, bro. So if you watch the doc and you think about the things he talked about, and these were recorded back in September, all right? And we've had this thing completed since November, but like, it's crazy listening to what he talked about and the worldwide global events that have transpired since then. And as far as the UFO disclosure and that kind of stuff, and just things like, this war in Ukraine, right? And a potential famine, right? And a Farmageddon, and just all these things. It's just wild. It's like, oh, dude, that's so nuts. This dude was talking about this shit right before he passed. And then it blows my mind is, dude, I just love, man, like exploring everybody, man, like all different walks of life. And trying to be respectful of all those. So like, it just trips me out, dude, that I got to sit down with this Zuni Pueblo Indian elder, dog. We're talking, the things that the Zunis have been talking about for the past thousands of years. I would say the odds of them being like 100% correct are just as equal as what the Christians have been saying for 2,000 years, and the Muslims and bro, this stuff was passed down. This stuff was etched and carved in petroglyphs and things like this. And it was orally passed down. And it's just like, oh, dude, it's just insane to be able to sit down with somebody with that type of wisdom and knowledge and who has gone and seen all the places he's seen and talked to all the people he's talked to and experienced all the things that he's experienced. Like it was just, if we had sat down and scripted, oh, how could we make a documentary about, I don't know, consciousness and telepathy and UFO and aliens, bro, we wouldn't have got the cast that we got. It was literally some sort of divine intervention or invisible college or whatever you want to call it, dude. It was crazy how this all came together.
Yeah, well put together. Chris, what's your role in Dockside Media and kind of what do you do? And
sure.
And can you talk a little bit about, maybe touch on, some of what Tyler was talking about?
Yeah, sure. So Dockside Media is just me and Tyler Transu. My role specifically is I do all the editing of the films and all the graphics. So all the poster work and all that kind of stuff. And then some of the filming. But generally, the way our process kind of works is Tyler will track down and reach out to people. And then depending on the location and if I'm available, I'll go and travel with him and help film the interviews and B-roll and all that stuff. And then we, film 5 or 6 interviews or however many we think is enough to tell the story or or we think that there's a story in there somewhere. And then I get all the footage and I start cutting. And the way I cut is I kind of just plop all these interviews onto my Premiere timeline and just start like listening, seeing what people are saying, and then try and formulate, a cohesive, compelling, interesting, entertaining film out of it. And what has worked so far has been, I think, a credit to Tyler for his interview abilities insofar as like just getting the people comfortable on camera and, kind of hyping them up. So he gives them a bit of his energy he has, and that really shows on the screen. And then the interview subjects are all, so far, everyone has been super, competent and compelling on screen and comfortable, and are able to tell some really interesting stories. And, it's things that they honestly believe. They come off as very credible people. You can't deny their perspectives or anything. They don't seem like charlatans or anything. And so what we are trying to do is just kind of get their stories out there in a way that is digestible and interesting, and then leaves you with hopefully, a bit more of an open mind about a lot of these things.
Where does this come from? I mean, for you personally, like as far as like the paranormal, like why the paranormal? Why this drive to do this and tell these people's stories?
For me, it's I just like I like filmmaking. I like crafting something that's interesting. And so I love sci-fi movies and I love horror movies. So I'm a big horror guy. That's my jam. And I'm generally like, before we did these documentary things, I was just narrative storytelling. So I have like 14 short films, and I'm working on my feature, which we're filming this year. And so I like making horror and sci-fi movies. And when we went into the documentary realm, it was like, well, I don't know. I'm not necessarily really interested in telling like a real life story of a basketball player or something like that. Like, for something, it's got to be something I'm interested in. And so while I'm a very skeptical individual, I just think these stories are way more interesting to me. And then it lends itself to, in an editing style, you can be more creative, I think, or differently creative in how you are, like, because I can pull some of those same ideals I would from a narrative sci-fi movie. You know what I mean? Like some of the editing style, because you want to tell something that is entertaining, because otherwise, if the audience isn't invested, it doesn't matter what these people are saying. You know what I mean? They'll lose interest. And so go ahead.
You definitely captured like my interest.
That's awesome.
And I mean, the Gettysburg one, man, even just the little sound effects that you put in the background when you're talking to some of these people were just like spot on, man. And it had like a little of a creepy factor to it. It was enjoyable. Though. Yeah. It was very enjoyable.
I wanted to get people in the mood for these things. I feel like there's a lot of like, things that have to come together to get people to open their mind or listen. And so if we can get them in the mood, and then help tell these stories with some of the visuals, with some of the B-roll we shoot, it's way easier for somebody to like listen to the story and then visualize it if they have some of these elements that they're seeing as well, help tell the story. But again, the credit is on the individuals we interviewed, because they have the interesting stories. We're just helping tell them.
I love that. That's, I feel you on that, man. I feel you on that. Tyler, what's your thoughts, like, as far as paranormal, like, what is it about this, because you guys are hitting on these two documentaries. I mean, so what is it about the paranormal for you that kind of drives you to do this?
Man, well, I try and be like curious about everything. And I feel like most of my life I've tried to maintain that mindset, because I feel like, you're people like Albert Einstein and just all these people, like they just stayed curious, dude. I mean, I'm not gonna like act like I'm like some like expert on him, but like, wasn't the dude working at a patent office and different things? Like, who was he, right? He could have easily listened to that voice inside his head and said, dude, what the heck am I thinking, bro? Like, But instead, he had some sort of epiphany sitting on a train where he visualized a light beam traveling beside the train or whatever, right? And now you like from there stems this like theory of general relativity, right? And all this crazy shit. So for me, one, I just always try and like, I'm curious and always looking up everything, dude, from paranormal stuff to sports to global events, current events. Like I'm fascinated with people and the world around me and life's mysteries. And then, so same deal, this paranormal stuff. It's like, dude, anybody talking about having a device in your pocket that could access information anywhere in the world instantaneously, like anybody talking about that 100 years ago was in an insane asylum, right? And now today we're like, bro, that's commonplace, man. Like obviously we couldn't think of life without a mobile device. So I'm like very confident that, man, in 100 years, I think our minds, like we might not even be able to conceptualize explanations and like reasons for these different phenomena. As far as the UFO, man, like, are we doing quantum entanglement or something? Are 2 points in time just being connected and there is no propulsion, and that UAP or UFO is literally just falling using gravity between point A and point B. But to us and visually, it looks like they're traveling at insane speed. And same deal, it's like, are they just in a different light spectrum or something? Or is there some sort of blue shift as they go from point A to point B? Like there's just a lot of things like, bro, Wi-Fi signals are coursing through my body right now, but I can't see them. And so like things like ghosts and aliens. I mean, bro, I'll say this. There were some crazy odd occurrences that happened after I came back from filming Sue Walker's interview. And she's the one, again, that's in conscious contact or telepathic contact with the Ponte extraterrestrials. And she had specifically said, hey, like, we've found that people who have come to interview us, sometimes the Ponte tend to visit them afterwards. And typically they do it more so if the person like verbally states that they are okay with it and they're comfortable with it. And so sure enough, I stated it, and I'll be damned if there weren't like 3 different occurrences that happened upon my return. And like that happened to my son and just different things. Like, I don't know.
Can
maybe
you give
they
us some
were
examples?
One like medication was going missing. Like 3, like a night, the next morning, and then the night, like that night again, like 3 times in a row when I kept correcting the pill package so that it was even and on the correct days. So it was real weird. We had some like old slinkies and various things pop up that we hadn't seen for like a year, and it was in like hidden in a recliner, which we have stuck in our hand down in 100 times in the past year. And like this my son's inhaler disappeared. As we're looking for it, we find this slinky in the recliner, like what the heck? And then look to the side, and now the inhaler is like a few feet away, sitting on the floor when it wasn't there. So like, dude, it was.
I remember. It sounds like silly right now because you're like, why would an alien do that? But I remember when that was happening, and he was calling me all the time. You're like, dude, I think it's the Ponte. Like,
I know.
I said this. He said I'm like, just
but
over
dog,
here. Like,
yo, Dylan, here's what's up. My son, he was starting to get wigged out, right? And I'm trying to like calm him as best I can. I'm like, dude, look, their motto is like, do no harm, leave no trace. Look, if anybody, any extraterrestrials, whatever, wanted to harm us, they would have already done it by now, bro. We'd be gone. If they have that type of power, like whatever, it'd be nothing for them. So I'm like, yo, listen up, yo, Ponte, if you're out there and you're messing with us, if you could do me a favor, yo, make dad the best filmmaker in the world, right? Like said that in front of my son verbally out loud. Dog, we've got 3 documentaries picked up since saying that. So like,
and I'm not just saying it because you guys are on my show. Your documentaries are dope, man. They are dope.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
I can't wait to see what you guys do next. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm not just saying it. I wish, anybody listening to this, please check their work out, man. If you're a paranormal fan, you will not be disappointed in what they do. It's top notch, man. It's top notch.
Well, we appreciate. Well, the Secrets of the Sasquatch, that's coming up next. We just got that picked up for distribution. We'll have a release date shortly. But that should be, I'm thinking like the beginning of this summer will be available on Amazon, iTunes, Google Play,
all that stuff,
Microsoft Movies. And then we have one more interview. We're going back to UFOs and aliens. We have one more interview to log for In Plain Sight, the intelligence community and UFOs. And so for that one, we got interviews with John Ramirez, retired CIA officer. He's the guy going around talking about potential humans or hybrids, right, of aliens, which I love entertaining that possibility, right? I'm open to that. We also got Tom Carey, who's like an author and expert on Roswell and the stuff that he's spoken to like 600 witnesses first and second hand. We got Eric Mintel from Eric Mintel Investigates, and also Jesse Peak from who's a MUFON field investigator. So we got to log like one more interview, and we'll have that one out in the beginning of the summer. And then, dog, we're thinking maybe doing one on like reincarnation and people who believe they've lived past lives.
You're speaking my language, man. You're speaking my language.
Okay. In a past life. A past life. That one's going to be coming out. And then we're also going to we'll be filming shortly a Ghosts in the Graveyard doc, where we're going to do a camp out at a haunted cemetery and then also interview a few people who've had experiences there. But we're getting at least 6 to 8 docs out in 2022. And they're all, like you said, Dylan, it means so much, bro. Like, we really pride ourselves on that high production value, man. We're not trying to use a ton of stock B-roll and just write narration and tell the story ourselves. It's like, nah, dude, we're trying to get real people's real stories and experiences. We get enough of those, then we find the common thread, and we're shooting it. Yep, dude, just 4K, well lit, looking sharp, getting drone footage, right? Like, I love just the drone footage. Like, it's just a beautiful thing, man. And so I hope the people like it literally trips us out when you're like, man, I watch hundreds of docs and I do look so sharp. We're like, dog,
they're sharp.
That's nasty, because we haven't watched hundreds of docs.
It looks as almost as a bigger budget and a bigger crew than it is. Let's put it that way.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Because
I mean, a lot of times it's really just Tyler too getting the interviews.
Right.
So
wow.
That means a lot. Can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Tyler, have you had any paranormal experiences or any UFO encounters or any kind of like weird stuff like that? Have you seen a UFO?
So potentially, on the UFOs. I mean, I'm not as skeptical of Chris, but I don't like just automatically accept, oh, that was a UFO. Like, we did one of the campouts for Secrets of the Sasquatch. Right. I'm out there with 2 other people. We're out in the middle of nowhere, freezing cold, dog, in the 20s. The sun just sets like 20 minutes later. Here comes these crazy lights. It looks like a giant roller coaster, a caterpillar up over the tree line, cruising across the sky, and then just disappears like 20 degrees up. Like, not at the horizon, but 20 degrees up. And dog, had I not seen a video of what the Starlink satellites look like, dude, I would have automatically thought, yep, there's a rip in the fabric of space-time. Dude, there's aliens landing here. Especially because, like, the way science works is like the way the sun's at down here, the earth is here. So as the sun's rays are going up over, like, the satellites are reflecting the sun's light. It's not like the satellites are lit up like Christmas trees. It's like, no. They're just shining the light back from the sun. So once they get past that part where they're in the Earth's shadow, like I said, it literally looks like they are just disappearing into thin air. So I understand that there are
that makes sense.
explanations for some of these things, but at the same time, I did another camp out by myself, freezing cold weather, dog. I'm hiking out, you know, in the middle of nowhere by myself, and I'm setting the tent up, and I see this light like traveling from right to left. I'm like, whoa, dude, that's crazy. That's kind of bright, but I don't know. Who knows? It could be whatever. But then it just stopped, and it was like as it fell towards the ground. And like, I would have liked to put more thought into it. I'm like struggling to get my phone out. And of course, by the time I get it out, it's like, shoot, man, it's below the tree line. But again, this is like 20 degrees out. I'm like, dude, I got to get this tent up. I got to build a fire ring and get this thing started before I freeze to death. Like, I don't have time to like think like, dude, what was that? It was a really odd circumstance. But yeah, so I've seen interesting things that I can't explain. I've seen things that could be explained. I know for some reason these are all happening during these Sasquatch campouts, to be honest with you. On the third campout,
well, if you go looking for the paranormal, it's going to find you.
Yeah, but I could see, you know, I like tracked across the sky with my naked eye, like a satellite, and showed the other people. So I'm like, you know, there's reasons or explanations for a ball of light way high up to track from one side of the horizon to the other in a straight line, right? But certainly the one I saw, that one where it was going from right to left, stopped, and then just like was heading towards the ground in like a skipping fashion. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't explain
that. How about you, Chris?
So, we had a little bit of a weird thing happen when we did Ghosts of Gettysburg. I haven't seen any UFO that I can think of, that anything that like sticks out to me. But when we were doing when we were doing Ghosts of Gettysburg, we were out on the battlefield. And we were staying at this. It's a haunted attraction, but it's essentially a battlefield too. Like, you know, people died there and everything. So there was some history on that land, and people kept telling us, look, you better, you know, your electronic equipment, it might fail around here because, you know, whatever, because of the supernatural, the energy here. And I was like, okay, you know, I was pleasant. I was, you know, sure. I didn't really think anything of it though. But I had bought this big battery I do like dance recitals and stuff. I film those, and I needed something to be able to plug stuff in. So it was this big battery. I could plug my cameras in and everything. I used it like once before that. It cost like $500. Go to turn the damn thing on when we're on this haunted battlefield. Immediately turns off. And we're like, oh, come on. Are you serious? And then the same thing. We're out on Gettysburg, literally at Gettysburg. Tyler has brought this coffee maker and some sort of contraption to like hook it into his car. Couldn't get that to work either. We were having some actual issues with electronic equipment. And so, hey, I don't have any explanation for it, but I will say all the people there who are familiar with the land and have history with it said it might happen. And then it did.
Wow, that's interesting. So
it is interesting. Yeah.
Prior to this, have you, like, prior to you know, making this film, have you had any kind of other experiences?
So what is weird, I have this one from my childhood, and Tyler's never heard this, but what's weird about it is Tyler currently lives in the same style house that I lived in when I was growing up, because he lives on the same street that I lived on when I was growing up. Uh-huh. So Tyler, in the one bedroom, there is a closet that's elevated. Okay. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? There's like a little cubby hole, like a corner of a room, but there's a closet to like the one side.
Yeah.
Anyways, I put my bed in that cubby hole before when I was like a kid, and I couldn't sleep that night because I kept hearing voices coming from the closet. And that was like my only supernatural experience. And I just assumed it's because I was a kid and it was my imagination. But it really freaked me out, so much so that I still remember it. And I remember so little about my childhood. But for whatever reason, I literally moved my bed the next day. Like, I couldn't keep it there. I was like, there's something in that closet something calling for me. Yeah, it was weird, and I still remember.
Dude, that's dope.
Yeah, so I don't know. Could have just been my imagination, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. I mean, I haven't had a whole lot of experiences, but from what I hear from others is I have had a few, but that, like, you know, when you do things like what you guys are doing, that, you know, sometimes, you know, things tend to come up, or things tend to, I think what you guys are doing, though, what I love about both of you is it seems like you guys have an open mind. You're not necessarily, you know, considering everything to be paranormal, but, you know, you're open to the idea of it. Because I think if you're closed-minded, you know, you may be having an experience and not even realize that you know, you're having one.
I think a lot of people are very closed-minded to a lot of things. They have their preconceived notions of how things work. And, you know, a lot of us live in a bubble. Like, you know, I've lived in Pennsylvania my entire life. I was born here. I do very little traveling. I have the same friend group for the most part. So I see a lot of the same people. I'm in a bubble. I don't have the experiences of other people's lives. Now, there are people who travel and stuff like that and get those experiences and grow. And what that does, I think, gives you more perspective on the world and other people's point of view. So Tyler's heard this before, but I started therapy like a year ago. My therapist said, "Do you want to do hypnosis?" Because she is trained in it. And I was like, sure, let's do it. And my thought on hypnosis is like what you see in a movie. She's going to wave something in front of my face. I'm going to fall asleep or whatever. And she's going to, you know, make me say things. That's not what hypnosis was. It wasn't what I was expecting. It was something more like meditation, but there was guided meditation in a way. It was a feeling. It was what hypnosis is. It was just not what I was expecting. And it was effective and it works. And what that did for me, it was like, man, I can't. Sue's telling these stories about communicating with the Ponti. I've never communicated with the Ponti. You asked me that 2 years ago, I'd probably been like, I don't know, man. She's, you know, I can't believe this. But now, I don't know. I used to think hypnosis was one thing, and then I experienced it, and it was something completely what I wasn't expecting. And so I think my point of all this is like, if you haven't experienced these things and somebody else has, it doesn't mean it's not happening. It just means maybe you didn't experience it. And so what I'm hoping is like, just be open to other people's perspectives. And that's what I hope like Conscious Contact and even Ghosts of Gettysburg does. It's like, well, you know, these people are sincere with what they're telling, and you can choose to believe it or not, but we're just hoping maybe that you'll at least leave a bit of an open mind for it and don't completely write everything off.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Sorry, guys, hang tight for 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
I'm upgrading so I don't get booted off.
Oh, we can stop and start again if you want.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Stop and start.
I can just let me pause it real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I mean, you know, you guys came open-minded to Gettysburg. There's been hundreds, if not thousands, probably, of sightings of different things and different, like, for example, in your movie that I think it was his grandfather, the granddad and his grandson were, you know, using different tools to try to pick up, you know, signals. I think it was a spirit box, and there was maybe an EFM reader or something like that. But did you guys experience any, or did you get a kind of a vibe or anything while you were in Gettysburg filming this?
Let me say this quick. So one, I like, as far as that grandfather and his grandson. So that's Don Allison. So hopefully maybe some of your listeners can look into him. What's neat about him is he's got a great story in that, you know, here's a journalist for I think the Bryant Times in Ohio. So he's writing news articles, right? And a historian. So he's into history, but never into the paranormal, never into ghosts. And it was just very fascinating how he himself had multiple experiences, paranormal experiences at Gettysburg, and that propelled him and was the nudge he needed to start writing these books about ghosts and the paranormal. And it's crazy because I can understand him being a journalist, right? And he talks about, you know, everything being about his reputation, man. He's been reporting on the news or whatever for 30 years. And so typically things like aliens, UFOs, ghosts, they're very taboo. And there's like a stigma that comes with it. So I love, one, that he had the courage to go and talk about and investigate and report on his paranormal experiences. Two, like, I hope that in some small way, Dockside Media, like, that's one of our goals as well, is to, like, as well as sharing these people's unique paranormal stories, is like, we hope that we can help destigmatize and just like like let people know, hey, it's okay. Like, if you had some unexplainable occurrence, like, that's fine. Like, yo, that's your experience. And it's okay to talk about that, because maybe somebody else had a similar experience too. And like, that's how we grow and get through these things, as opposed to like just keeping it inside and thinking, oh, well, I must have just, I don't know, sniffed some glue that day or whatever, or bumped my head. And it's like, because like, it's very easy to just write off things that are unexplainable, because it's uncomfortable to consider the alternative of what that really may have been. Because for a lot of people, it could shatter their worldview. So I hope we're having some small part in generating momentum, interest, discussion, just destigmatizing this kind of stuff.
You know what's cool though, since we started doing these, it's like I have these people I've known for a while, and I like tell them, oh yeah, we just made this alien documentary and this ghosts thing, to find out, like, I never would have thought that they were into this stuff and they had their own experiences, and now they come out and like, oh really? But like, there's a lot more people out there with these kind of things they've experienced and stuff, but again, like, yeah, there's a stigma against it. And so it's cool to like, these people I've known, like, oh, you actually, you get what we're doing here. It's cool.
Yeah. And so to go back to your thing, do we have any unique experiences with the equipment, like the EVP and whatnot, electronic voice phenomena, the spirit box? We did, I don't believe it made it into the film, but it was kind of odd that during the campfire seance with the medium, and she's using the Estes method, which is where she's wearing headphones. She cannot hear what everybody else at the campfire is saying, but she's getting audio coming through her headphones, which is basically picking up, I think, like random radio frequencies, right, in the surrounding area. And that's how they're picking up these EVP, this electronic voice phenomenon. And so it was interesting that the two people who were the most skeptical at the camp out during the seance, one being Chris Rupert over here, and the other being this other gentleman that came along for the experience. He was with somebody else who was more into it. But like, both of their names got called out during this seance. And it's not like everybody at this group camp out had been talking and introducing ourselves and knowing each other's names for like the past few hours.
No, we didn't even
like
know.
The odds of Jesse, the medium, like knowing these two people's names, it was odd. It could have been coincidence, odd, yeah. But it was like, I know, like, as I'm filming this, I'm like, dude, how is this name being? Yeah, it's just weird. Out of all the names, these two people were called out, and I forget what the box said, but it was something, ominous, but could apply to the situation. And also during that filming, out of the corner of my eye, I saw like a shadow or something go running past everybody in the background. I don't think we got it on camera, and it could have very well been a squirrel or something like that. But I know, as like I'm trying to film, as filmmakers, we got like 20 different things going on at once. I'm just like, yo, what the hell was that? This thing goes flying across, and then like the medium who's saying what's coming through the headphones is like 2 seconds later is like, oh no, I'm still on the property. I haven't left, or whatever it was. I was like, what? Like, did I see the spirit? What the hell is going on here? So yeah, dude, we had some cool stuff, man. We had
spirit
some cool
box
stuff
as well.
happen.
Don Allison was using the spirit box in the basement, and we were hearing voices and trying to decipher what they were saying. I mean, he has some interesting stories of his communications with a specific individual who died on the battlefield that's told in Ghosts of Gettysburg. But yeah, it was a really eerie environment a lot of times. I mean, granted, it's the woods at night, but knowing the history and stuff, it definitely makes it feel a little bit different. And you can go into Pennsylvania and travel around, but when you hit the battlefield, it's like a really interesting piece of like the landscape is just different. It feels right. Like I guess it's a result of the battle itself, but it just looks different and stuff. So yeah, it was cool. It was cool being there. So like, even if you're not completely into the supernatural stuff, which I don't know why you would be listening to this podcast if you're not, but there's a history element that we're doing as well with Ghosts of Gettysburg that I think might appeal to people, just with the reenactment footage and stuff we shot. Like, there's just beautiful footage of the Gettysburg battlefield in there.
That's awesome. So Chris, let me ask you then your thoughts on UFOs and aliens. I mean, is it nonsense? Are all these people delusional? Is there something going on? And to what is your view of it, if there is something going on? I mean, I know we none of us really know, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no. A blank statement I would say about UFOs and aliens is yes, I believe there are UFOs and aliens. Do I believe they're here? I'm not sure. I believe that the people we've talked to, and there's plenty of them, and there's more and more every day, and it's not just like random people, they're credible people. Like Sue Walker, she's worked with 3-letter agencies. She's helped solve murders and kidnapping. Anjali has a history working for the U.S. government. We just interviewed John Ramirez, who, retired CIA. So these people have, they have a lot to lose by, putting themselves out there with some of these things, because I keep saying there's a stigma against it. And so that gives a little bit more credence to the validity of a lot of stuff. I think with the UAP reports and all that stuff, with the government coming forward with things, it's also making it seem more credible. It just seems like it's becoming way more mainstream. Slowly, it's spreading. And so I think there is potential for, at some point, like some really hard-hitting like evidence to come out. And it might already be out, but it's the fact that, like, if you just dropped all this knowledge right away and said, these are aliens, we roll them out, this is what's happening, like, it would be so much delay on to the society that we live in currently. It's like, the United States alone, just how much we have with our political system. Everybody is against everybody. It's so divisive. And you can see like how that affects everything. And so if you were to just drop all this massive, mind shifting information, I don't think we would respond well to it. And I think maybe slowly seeding the groundwork to it being like common and acceptable is a better way to do it. So, man, I don't know. I'm open to it. I think what it takes for me is seeing the people who are saying it and believing it or not. And the people we've interviewed certainly believe what they're saying. They don't seem like charlatans. You can tell a lot, you generally tell when somebody is lying, but they get emotional. Like, there is a deep feeling in them that what they're saying is real and has touched them and changed them. And that makes me believe more.
Yeah. I've interviewed people like that too, that have, claimed to have been abducted by UFOs, and they were credible. They had credible backgrounds as well. And whether they actually physically were with an alien or not, they at least perceive or believe wholeheartedly that they were with an alien,
Yeah. And who's to say, like, man, everybody lives a different life, like the saying with perspectives and stuff. So I can't say whether or not they were or not, but they certainly believe it. And so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I got no reason not to. But we don't push that, we don't push a narrative in our documentaries. I don't think so. I think our narrative is just keep an open mind generally. We just try and tell their stories.
That's what it seemed to me, that you were just telling the story. Tyler, what are your thoughts on UFOs and aliens?
Oh, dude, the universe is a massive place. And I feel like I've always been of the mindset. I've never always been obsessed with UFOs, but I've always been under the belief like, oh, bro, the universe is so big. If an intelligent life form out of all these billions of years, if another intelligent life form happened to evolve only 100 to 1,000 years before us and followed any type of similar technological trajectory or like evolution, it's like, dog, in 100, dude, right now, we can cruise around in like a metal tube at 30,000 feet and take a shit, like in an airplane, like fly around. Dude, that is, again, 100 years ago, nobody even thought, oh, I wonder if I can take a dump at 30,000 feet in a metal tube going 300, 400 miles per hour. And so, like, again, I'm just of the belief that in 100 to 1,000 years from now, when we've gone just in our short lifetimes from playing Pong on Atari to PS5 and virtual reality, that is like very, very convincing. And now we have deep fakes of Tom Cruise and shit, right? Where you can watch these people on the internet or like a video on YouTube that an algorithm created, right? It's, and you can't distinguish between, like, unless you really, really know Tom Cruise well. If you just knew him in passing, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's Tom Cruise. That's what he did. So it's like, dude, this stuff's in its infancy. 100 to 1,000 years from now, it will be way beyond our comprehension.
Maybe
stuff
perhaps
like Neuralink.
Hard to even understand what reality really is and to separate the two.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of scary.
Like we're talking like Elon Musk is investing in Neuralink right now, which is like this interface, right? He's saying like, oh, the main problem with humans is the input is like our thumbs on a phone can only type so many characters of information per minute or per second, right? It's not that we can't think of the question and want the answer. It's like, oh, dude, we have to manually put it into something. So once something like Neuralink is fully functional, and a lot of people are using it. Okay, well, number one, okay, are those people all probably not doing telepathy at that point? Like, I'm not dialing a phone number and calling you. I'm just like, yo, Chris, what up? He like, yo, what's good? Yo, dude, Chris, I just cut this trailer. Check this out. Boom, send them like. So if we're doing that in 5 years,
there's a lot of people that say that that's how the aliens communicate is through telepathy. A lot of these experiencers talk about that. And here's the thing. I don't think, not only are they technologically way more advanced and evolved than us, they're likely more spiritually advanced and evolved than us. And I think there's something to be said about that, because if you take us at our purest form, we're just energy anyway. And if you can be more advanced in that way, perhaps they can travel through interdimensionally or some kind of weird shit like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, no, we interviewed Tom Carey for In Plain Sight, and he brought up the idea of extra temporal. What was that? I never
temporal, yeah. Extra
temporal aliens, which is like, if they have the technology to travel through time in some way, like that also lends credence to the hybrid theory, because who knows when civilization started. Was there any sort of influence from an alien species or not? There's just so many interesting avenues you can go down with this stuff. Yeah.
And I think going back to like the Native Americans and like they believe we were seeded here by extraterrestrial, and perhaps that's their great interest in us, is that you were like a science project or something. Or like I don't know.
Are we not studying uncontacted Amazonian tribes right now? Right?
Yeah.
Are there not tribes that because they never advanced technologically and they weren't contacted at this point, we say, you know what, it would crush their culture and civilization to reveal ourselves. So we will watch them with drones, we will video them, we'll put up hidden cameras, and we'll see and log and study and research how they are evolving. And it's like, and there's some dude in that tribe that's catching a lot of shit saying, bro, I think there's more like to it than than just these fires and this like these like medicines we're making and these dances we're doing to bring the rain down. And people are like, bro, you're crazy, drink more ayahuasca. But like, dude, he's actually right. So are we just being studied? Is this a zoo? Are we not sending probes to Mars, to the moon? And if we come across intelligent life, would we not again just study them and try our best not to affect? And if it's seeded, like, right.
Well, there's something with some of the DNA experts, and I don't know how true any of this is. I'm just speaking off of stuff I've heard, but they even talk about how, there was, the Neanderthal and other like human type beings, but that we potentially evolved from, but like our DNAs don't really match or link. And it's almost as if our DNA it didn't evolve over time, that there was inserted, like there was accelerated or something. Yeah. Manipulated or accelerated in some way. And I don't know how true any of this is, but, I'm just throwing that out there as well, that, perhaps it's crazy to think.
It's fascinating and it's possible. I mean, I think it's very, very interesting that, these people in the U.S. or former U.S. government officials like the Lou Elizondos, the Chris Mellons, Bill Nelson, the NASA administrator, that these people are starting to bring into the discussion about, like Lou specifically said, what happened 70,000 years ago that propelled us to the apex predator, alluding to, was there some sort of genetic manipulation, right? Like, you know what? I believe he also makes the comparison that like dogs, however many thousands of years ago, dogs greatly benefited from us domesticating them, right? Like the dog didn't necessarily know what was going on, but its life and quality of life and life expectancy and all these things increased dramatically. So is there something else out there? And we are the dogs, right? We're not the apex predators, and we are being nudged along. Like there's things like Tom DeLonge. He's brought up the term loosh, if you've heard of that. But, there's some speculation. People speculate that maybe these extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings or whatever they are, maybe they operate off loosh, right? And loosh is this idea of like conflict, like this energy or negative energy, I guess, that's created between conflict. Like when people are upset, when worlds are warring, when there's just continual political strife, things like this. So like
a mass influence
it's like if people are upset at each other, it creates this substance called loosh. And that is what these entities feed off of. So they need to help continue nudging these conflicts and keep us in disharmony, because that's the only way. Like we think of food and calories like this, but again, the world's a big place. So maybe they're feeding off our emotional energy.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I never heard that before, but like on a macro level, I've experienced that just in my family. Like if somebody's upset, it spreads. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Yeah.
Even on a global scale, I mean, you look at things like the recent pandemic and stuff, and how fear driven a lot of that was. And I think people feed off of each other. And that's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And something magical happens when you just get a group of people in the same area with the same mindset, dude, whether it's at a massive concert, whether it's at a sporting event, whether it's people who go to church. Like there's something to be said. And I know I've experienced those hairs on the back of my neck, that like that tingly sensation, like, there's an energy,
feel it. Yeah, you feel
literally like a physical energy in the air. So I think like there could be more to all this than we necessarily know. And as we develop science and instrumentation, like the LHC, like the Large Hadron Collider, where they're like, dude, it's crazy that we've advanced to the point where we can take atoms or two electrons and slam them together like near the speed of light by running them through these giant metal tubes. Like that's insane.
I often wonder if we're playing with stuff though that could be catastrophic or change the fabric of space time or some shit, you know. I mean,
possibility, right?
Yeah, it makes you wonder.
Yeah, we're always playing that game though. I mean, with nuclear bombs and stuff as well. So who's to say, you know, humanity's downfall will probably be caused from humanity, but we'll see, I guess. Hopefully not.
But then you get interesting things like all these reports about UFOs around nuclear sites, right?
True.
So it's like, okay, well, why do these extraterrestrials or UAP or like, why do they have an interest in that, you know, in that type of energy? Is like, does it create an EMP, like an electromagnetic pulse, and can it knock them out of the air? We have reports that are just coming out through Freedom of Information Acts about people suffering from radiation burns and stuff, right? That people are having physiological side effects as a result of being near these phenomena, right? So it's like, wow. Then you have things like, you know, even back in World War II with the Foo Fighters and all these pilots reporting these balls of lights following aircraft. So it's like, oh, dude, you know, none of this shit is particularly new. It's in petroglyphs. Like, it's, you know, whatever it is has been, it seems like, interacting with us or studying us or whatever for a very long time.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I often wonder that too. Have we been seeded, or is it perhaps just us evolved from the future, checking in on ourselves or trying to change something, or it's hard to say. Yeah, I'm excited. I look forward to your guys's your future work. You definitely got a fan here.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you. Is there anything you guys would like to add before I let you guys go? Just maybe tell the listeners where they can find you, you know, where they can get a hold
Go for
of
it, Tyler. Hype them up.
Sure. Yo, everybody, again, Tyler Transu and Chris Rupert with Dockside Media. That's right. The dopest documentary production company at this side of the Milky Way. Dig it, dug it, dag nabbit, let's go.
Check it. Never signed off on that. You can catch us. Just so you know, I never signed off on that tagline thing. I never signed off on that.
That's a great tagline. I can deliver it every time.
I know you can. I know you can.
It's instinct now, muscle memory. But so we got that. So yeah, you can find us at docksidemedia.com. We're pretty active on Facebook.com/docksidemedia. We get our tweets on at Dockside Media. We're trying to grow our Instagram channel at Dockside Media. And then we got us a YouTube channel as well, but we don't have 1,000 subs yet. So we don't have the cool customized link at the end. But if you search Dockside Media, I feel like we're the only Dockside Media out there, and you'll definitely see it. And, you know, we've got all the trailers for all these different paranormal documentaries. And one thing too, I think the value that Chris and I offer in Dockside Media is that as we are making these documentaries, you know, we're staying active on social media, shooting videos of the flights we're taking to go like interview these people. We're putting up pictures of the like as we're interviewing these people, we're making our posters and putting them up. We're dropping trailers here and there and teasers after each interview. So, you know, if you're into like the behind the scenes process, like, dude, how are these guys making these docs? Like, yo, we're showing you. We are straight up showing you how we're making them, and you can follow along. And
you can even be in one.
It's an
potentially,
awesome
yeah. Like
yeah,
we
you can be in it.
Yeah,
we're putting out public messages all the time. Hey guys, we're doing a camp out at the haunted trails of Gettysburg. Anybody want to come out? We're shooting a doc. Yo, we're doing a camp out on these Forbes State Forest for Secrets of the Sasquatch. We'd love to have people come along. So if this is stuff you're into and you want to go have the adventure of a lifetime and like a really unique experience, dude, come along. It's absolutely as fun as you know, you think. Like, dude, Chris and I shit our pants went like at Gettysburg. Just, it's insane.
I did not shit my pants at Gettysburg. Just let's clear that up.
They did
have a bathroom. They had a porta potty.
You did get to the porta potty. But you're on these grounds and you're looking around and it's like, oh, dude, when I was here, when I was 9 years old, I didn't appreciate this. I had no idea what this was. And now I'm like, bro, tens of thousands of people bled brother against brother, dog, on this freaking land. People up on that hill. And it's like, yo, the general says, yo, charge. And you don't have time to be like, dude, I don't think that's a good idea. Nah, bro. These people ran up the hill. They didn't give a shit.
Oh, man,
and so when
great.
I stop and I look at these things, I'm like, dude, this is just insane that Chris and I are even here, like right now. And so what a blessing, and how fortunate that we can record footage and make these documentaries. And so, man, we hope this passion and energy like carries over to the viewers and the listeners and the followers, and that whether it's anything, like if they're just into like crocheting, maybe we help fire them up to go crochet a little bit more and get better at that. Because like you said about our high production value, dude, you can go back on our personal Facebook pages and you can watch us grow. Our very first video, we're shooting on cell phones and everything, man, you know, and editing them on cell phones. And hopefully the people can see like, oh, dude, it doesn't take a very, very long time to get good at something. It just takes a lot of practice and enjoying it and having fun. The more you're doing that, the quicker you get better at it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Look, we got to go and do a seance on haunted battlegrounds. Not too many people get to say that. So follow us on social media and then join us on one of these things, because we're going to be looking for people to come out on this Ghost in the Graveyard thing, I think, coming up once we lock in more information about that. So keep an eye out, but then also keep an eye out on April 19th, because Conscious Contact, full disclosure, is out. Google Play, Amazon, iTunes, Vimeo, Microsoft Games, Movies, I believe is what it's called. And then April 26th, we got The Ghosts of Gettysburg out in all the exact same places. So look out for those. If you watch it and you like it, or even if you didn't, I don't know, leave a review though. We want to hear feedback. We're always trying to improve. We sent these out to a bunch of people for, feedback for pre-screeners, and it was all very positive for the most part, but we're always open to any sort of criticism, especially if it's helpful. So let us know what you guys think. Put your thoughts out there. And then if you got any questions, you have a question about filmmaking, you got a question about anything, you can hit us up at darksidemedia.com. There's a contact form on there, and we will get back to you.
What are your future plans do you have any certain subjects you guys are looking at making docs on or anything like that?
Well, so the in plain sight, the intelligence community and UFOs, that'll be about the intelligence community and UFOs. And that'll be, that'll be.
Hey, that's a good name then, Tyler. That makes sense.
Oh, no, it's very descriptive. And then, again, for those just tuning in, we're going to be doing one on like reincarnation and people who have lived, past lives. And it'll be called In a Past Life.
That's awesome.
And then
there's so much
Ghost
evidence
in the Graveyard.
For that. Yeah, that is. I'm going to be really interested in hearing those interviews.
I cannot.
Dude, Dylan, I got to look into this more and
look into past life regression.
Yeah.
You guys should do one sometime. Maybe even before the doc, you could maybe include it, or it'll open your mind. Trust me,
dude. That's a really interesting idea. Yeah.
I've had a couple done. It'll blow your mind.
Oh, you've had it done?
Yeah, it'll blow your mind.
My boy. It sounds like you're going to be in our documentary telling us your stories.
Oh, hey, I'm down, brother. I'm down. No, seriously, I've had a few past life regressions. I've actually done a few on people. Dude, I got a background in psychology, and it's just something that just fascinates me, man.
Yeah,
we reincarnate, bro. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. We reincarnate. We're not here for. We're not saying a one-time deal.
I want to hear your stories. We'll have to talk afterwards.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to talk. And I'm going to have you guys back on, man.
Anytime.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, we'll have to send you Secrets of the Sasquatch too, because that's done.
Yep.